Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in today's video we are once again taking a look at another Diamond Select statue from X-Men the Animated Series. And I know right now X-Men is on the mind of a lot of fans because currently Disney Plus is doing their X-Men 97 stuff, and this really has no bearing to any of that. But hey, the timing is perfect to talk about X-Men stuff, and this is a character who I have been waiting for since this lineup began. Today from Diamond Select, we're taking a look at their Apocalypse statue based on his appearance in X-Men the Animated Series. And Apocalypse has always been one of my favorite characters, whether we're talking in the comics or cartoons. I've just always loved him, and especially in toy form, I'm always a big fan of that. But truly, I can't think of a more iconic look for Apocalypse than how he was in that animated series. And not just the look, it was the colors, it was the voice, everything about it was just spot on. It's exactly what I'd wanted. So I'm hoping today that this statue gives me exactly what I want also, and to be honest, considering how far we looked into this line, so far there really hasn't been any disappointments. Let's talk about this box real quick before we get into things, and the box is really just like any other box out there for these X-Men Animated Series statues. It tends to be a square or a rectangle, very basic. You've got an image of the character on the front, their name, X-Men Animated Series logo, nothing really to write home about. On one side of the box you have the statue itself, you can see here, with some nice simple colors behind it, just pops real nice. Whereas the opposite side has some illustrations of the characters and a whole bunch of X's, and I really like this 90s aesthetic that they've got going on here. This to me totally reads like not just X-Men, but the X-Men that I enjoyed when I was growing up. Unlike the PVC pieces you get from Diamond Select, there is no sunroof on top here. What we do have is a nice X-Men logo though, so that's cool for me. But yeah, there's no way to see inside the box. That's because they're trying to keep everything nice and protected and safe, because this is, after all, a resin piece, which means it's going to be a little bit more brittle. Now, as far as the back of the box goes, again, same as any statue you've seen before in this series. And much like any resin piece you'd get from this company, there is no bio information, there's nothing about the character here. It just basically explains to you that this is a statue, it is made of resin, and it is a limited edition. And speaking of, this is a limited edition of 3,000 pieces total. And you guys will see my number and all the information a little bit later on in the video. Now, besides that, again, you've got a great big image of the Apocalypse statue, which you've already seen on the front of it. But what we do have that is super important is the credits for this piece. And our Apocalypse, like all the X-Men Animated Series resin busts, were designed by Barry Bradfield and sculpted by Paul Harding. And they do some great work. We've seen them already, and if you guys haven't seen any of the previous videos we've done in this series, I highly urge that you do go back into our archives and take a look at them, because this whole line has just been spectacular. I really can't stop saying good things about it. So I'm hoping that this Apocalypse will be just as good. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this big guy out of the box and take a closer look at him from all angles. And here is our Apocalypse bust out of the packaging. This is such a menacing looking character. This was always going to be a great piece, but I didn't know how great it was going to be until now. Let's do a quick rotation, and I'll show you guys how this looks from all angles, as I just said moments earlier. But yeah, this Apocalypse, man, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, when I want to get something Apocalypse, I want it to be foreboding and imposing, menacing. And really, when I think of that, I kind of think of the cartoon first. I mean, yeah, it was one thing seeing the character in the original X Factor and seeing how Apocalypse has changed over the years, but I always keep going back to the cartoon. And for whatever reason, yeah, this look has always worked for me. The voice especially really worked for me. So I'm very excited to have something formally in this style as part of this series to join my collection. Now, while I didn't review it on the channel, I do have the Marvel Legends action figure of him, and I actually kept that in packaging because I thought it looked amazing, and I did talk about that in my review of that Diamond Select Apocalypse figure, which again, if you haven't seen, highly recommend you check that one out. So let's go ahead now and start talking about some of the finer details with this Apocalypse piece here. I think the best place to start is going to be with that head and that likeness. Now, I will admit the first thing that I noticed here when I look at this guy is, man, his head almost looks, you know, too tiny for his body. Is this right? Is this wrong? At least that's how it looks on camera a little bit, because you can see here, I mean, look at the size of this guy's trunk and his massive arms, and then you got this little tiny head. I think it actually looks a lot better in person. It might just be the way that I'm filming it today, and I am filming it from kind of a lower angle, so that kind of makes him look more imposing, but also will make his head look a little bit smaller. But yeah, head looks good, other than the size issue, which I think is going to be something you need to just decide on for yourself. But the likeness is great. I really enjoy the paint job on here. It's got that trademark Apocalypse scowl that we all know and love. The eyes have a nice little bit of detail in there too. They're not just one color, they are red with a sort of, basically, I think it's actually the same color as his skin tone. It's making up his pupils. We have the really nice sort of animated look for him too. And on some pieces it works better than others, but with this Apocalypse, I think it works very well. Especially with the female statues we've seen, oftentimes the black lines can be a problem, but with Apocalypse it works. He's got a little more angles to play with also in the face as far as his sculpt goes. So this is a definite hit for me. And again, those those lips and that teeth, that just screams Apocalypse. But yeah, really great use of all the blacks and of all the little bits of color that they have in here too. I also like the top of his head. I'll show you guys a little more of the sides here as well. It has a nice stripe that goes all the way to the back side. And his ears are covered with those little weird Apocalypse cocktail wieners, I guess. I don't know what they are, but they're there. Hopefully you guys can see the cheek curvature as well. This isn't just a flat face. There's actually a lot of dimension to this. Obviously, because it's a sculpture, there will be dimension, but there's really a lot more here. Then you really get a lot of those features that you would have seen with Apocalypse in the cartoon. So really great details there. And I got to start now talking about the rest of this piece because, man, again, let's just go back to this body now because this is really where a lot of that action is. Just look at how enormous this guy looks here. So these are meant to be the animated series style, so there's some of that cell shade, I guess we can call it, animation. It's really not cell shade at that point, I guess. It's more just the multicolored animation that they did, which was very breakthrough for the time. You can see that here in the shoulder pauldrons, how he has like different shades. He's got a lighter, he's got a darker, and then there's even a different shade of blue kind of underneath there to make sure there is even more dimension. As if having the natural shadows in this piece wasn't enough, they basically painted some in for you to really make this guy have a lot more depth to him. You can see that too in the chest, because yeah, this is, an actual pectoral that's receded around him or whatever. But yeah, there's, black underneath there to show his chest. Same with the, I have to call this the Batman Returns abs, because it kind of reminds me of the suit that Keaton had in Batman Returns. But you can see there, you've got the same kind of thing going. The belt buckle, again, you've got the nice little shine on that A there. So lots of different things going on here. And you'll see that too on the gauntlets. You'll see multiple colors there. Right there, you can get a nice good shot of it closer to the wrist, how that looks. So just a lot of different dimension here. And I love these hands, by the way. These are like, again, just those super awesome Apocalypse hands. Like this one here just looks so menacing. And this one up here, it just looks like he's kind of doing like a Shakespearean monologue or something. Like, I don't know which show he's doing, but that to me just looks like, he's ready to be or not to be. And he's all about that with the mutant race. So yeah, just great paint job, very clean. That's the one thing I'm kind of like looking for as I go around this piece here. And overall, it's very clean. Rarely do we have any slop with the X-Men pieces, I've noticed. They're always pretty solid as far as the paint application goes. I don't really feel like Apocalypse is any different. He's looking just as good as his fellow statues in the lineup. Some parts are kind of fun too that I feel like I didn't notice as much in the cartoon, as we have like this nice little line over here, and it's also on this side too. So just, showing a lot of detail here. Likewise too, we've got these sections here that are part of his gauntlets. That actually is sculpted in. It's not just painted. That is a sculpted piece that was highlighted with some paint. So that's very nice too. You've got this thing in the chest too. A lot of you guys might have been noticing that as we're doing this review here, is there's like sort of little lines by his shoulders here. That's not where the mold is for the piece. Nope, it's actually just part of the design of Apocalypse. And that is a sculpted element there too. So fun stuff here all around. Lots of just really cool little nooks and crannies that this piece is really kind of showing off in a lot of ways. I've also, again, I'm going to go back to that head for a second, because just look at how cool this neck piece is. Just how much paint application is in there. How mechanical it looks. Man, what a cool color. Just what a cool design too. Apocalypse was always a favorite design of mine in the X-Men series. But talk about toyetic. Let's use that word. You talk about toyetic and you think about Apocalypse. Man, how cool is that? Now we also have the cables in the back of his waist, which, when I was a kid and I had these in the toy, I just yanked them right out of my Toy Biz figure. Diamond Select one, you can't really do that. And likewise here, these live in there. And if anything, this is probably the most fragile part of this statue. So I'm just giving you a heads up that this would be the one thing where if it fell down and just went like floop, that would probably crack and break. Although they feel pretty sturdy, all things considered, for what they are, but just because they are a little bit thinner than everything else here, and again, this Apocalypse is a beefy boy, that's one of those points you've got to be really careful with. But I feel like even the size of those guys, like in shipping even, they're not going to break or anything. I feel like it's more just like if the statue happens to fall somewhere. And hopefully that doesn't happen to you. And in case you're wondering how tall this statue is, Apocalypse is just about 6 inches tall. So there you go. And, every inch is used very well on this piece. Now let's talk about the base for a second too, and I'll do a little rotation, I guess, while we're talking about it, because, I mean, there's really not much else to see while I'm talking about it. But yeah, it's the same hockey puck we've gotten on all of these. I think hockey puck is a term I've used for the Star Wars ones, actually, but the Apocalypse piece is the same as every other piece we've seen in this Marvel X-Men series. And it's this sort of cylindrical base. It's got some little elements here and there, whatever, nothing too crazy. But what's kind of cool is it actually fits Apocalypse really well because of the same shapes you're seeing. I mean, you look at like this right here, this reminds you of what's in his abs, the shapes of these and everything. Like there's a lot of actual repetition of shape in this base to the rest of the statue that for once actually ties the piece together really, really well. And I think that's really fun. It wasn't something they intended, I don't think, but it worked out really well for them. So yeah, that's pretty much our Apocalypse. I think let's give another rotation right now, give you guys one more look at him. And I'm very happy with the piece. Again, like, man, this thing is a beaut. It is a massive piece too. Now, I will say, by the way, if anybody's wondering as far as scale goes with other statues, there really isn't any necessarily matching scale. Some characters are bigger than others. You know, for the most part, they're always kind of just the same size though. So if you were hoping for Apocalypse to be enormous compared to like Professor X or Rogue, he is not. He's pretty much going to be the same height. He's just a lot thicker. That's really it. But I think it looks stellar as is. No complaints from me. Color is great. Looks like it's just straight out of the cartoon. All the little details are there, and some that I never really remembered even watching as a kid. So, you know, it's not just a whole lot of nostalgia here. It's also just a really excellent piece, and just another awesome one to add to Diamond's X-Men Animated Series collection. So that's our look at Apocalypse, and if you like him, why don't you go ahead and check him out on Amazon or Entertainment Earth or anywhere else we've got affiliate links for in our description below. If you click on any of those links, it helps out this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. And with all that said, that is our look at Apocalypse from Diamond Select's X-Men The Animated Series resin bust lineup. Let me know what you think about him in the comments below. I'm excited for some more pieces here, and stick around because there are plenty more to come. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later.